You can now subscribe and save 20% off every single shipment you get of Strava Craft coffee, and you can choose when they'll send it straight to your door. That's 2, 3, 4, 6, or 8 weeks. You make the call when you need that coffee sent to you. They'll send it to you. You'll get 20% off every time. You'll never have to enter your credit card information again. You won't have to worry about running out of coffee and having to make a run to the store in the morning because, well, you'll just look outside. It'll be waiting for you right on your doorstep. So check out Strava Craft Coffee and save 20% every time with the subscription. Or if you just want to try it out once, you can, of course, use the code DNVR20, and they'll give you one chance to get that 20% off. Or you can come on down to the DNVR bars, try some of their CBD-infused cold brew. It's really, really great stuff. So check out Strava Craft Coffee.
Number one for the one and only DNVR. 2 goes out to Zach, Mace, RK, and the bar. 3 for Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number 4 we're still waiting for. Well, bring on the chase. Out on the field, a mile high, Broncos win is our desire. Couple with a breakfast crew and a friendly orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us at the DNVR. We are DNVR.
Welcome in, and happy Friday. DNVR Broncos podcast, of course, presented by MSU Denver Online. They'll put a dynamic education at your fingertips without forcing you to decide between earning a degree and living your life. They are the Colorado institution for providing rigorous and affordable online programs taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. They believe in value without compromise, an excellent education at a great price with professors who care about you and formats that fit your life. So check out msudenver.edu/online today.
My boys, what's up? Happy Friday. Happy Bum Talk Friday. Feel Good Friday. Ooh, it feels good because we really should have Broncos back this weekend. Maybe we'll even kick some 58-yard field goals today.
Touch wood.
Yeah, you better touch wood on that because, what if we wake up tomorrow morning and what happened to the Colts happens to the Broncos right now? And that's the thing that keeps you nervous. I am every morning when I wake up, guys, I'm always a little bit squeamish about what I might find in my cell phone about, okay, has everything blown up for the day? So there's more touching wood on that, Zach, than pretty much anything we have ever talked about in the football realm on this podcast.
Yeah, I don't know if I can mentally handle another game getting pushed back. It's geez, just one dose of blue balls is enough.
Wow.
Blue and orange balls, maybe. But we should, I'll touch wood as well. We should have football this weekend. Finally, feels like it's been ages. And the Broncos are going to be out there with a much better looking squad than the one that we've seen the last few times they've been on the field. It feels like ages since we had to watch Jeff Driscoll start, but it wasn't really that long ago at all. And now the team should have Drew Lock back out there on the field. For some reason, Vic Fangio still thinks that he's playing coy about this, which is funny because he's going up against the one coach who I just don't think you can pull this type of crap on. But Vic Fangio doesn't want to completely admit it yet, but Drew Lock's going to be the starter on Sunday, and that makes a world of difference for the Broncos.
Yeah, there's no reason that on Thursday Drew can definitely start and then Sunday rolls around. Again, we talked about how it's going to be very difficult for a setback to happen with this injury for Drew. So it's difficult for Sunday to come around and him not be able to start. So he'll be the starter. I imagine Vic is going to take this up to game time just to play games with him. But what's funny about that too, Ryan, is Vic was seeing right through Cam Newton last week. He was saying, that we're preparing for Cam Newton to be the starting quarterback. And that was in more difficult circumstances of Cam being able to play. So it'll be Drew versus Cam, and Broncos will also have Phillip Lindsay back, may have Noah Fant back. They're going to have some pieces that they wouldn't have had if this game was played on Monday.
I mean, really, the question I think isn't whether Drew Lock is going to play, because I think the chance of him not playing is something with the virus or something really disastrous happening in the next 48 hours. So hopefully none of that will
Touch
happen.
wood.
Yeah, I think the story is whether Noah Fant plays, and more so him than AJ Boye, because Vic Fangio indicated with Boye it's probably going to be another week before they bring him back. But I'm glad we're talking about that rather than what we were talking about last week, because we're gonna see Drew Lock, we're gonna hopefully see Broncos Patriots, we're going to see Cam Newton, we're going to see Stephon Gilmore. It's going to be the game that we were expecting before this whole crisis began a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and you're going to see Melvin Gordon, and that was something that we weren't sure about after the incident with him getting a DUI. Yesterday we talked about it. Vic Fangio kind of made it seem like the Broncos might dole out some punishment of their own, but then he's back at practice yesterday, and then Vic Fangio really changed his tune, going from there will be discipline to the league is going to take a few weeks or whatever to figure this out. So, or they're going to wait until all the facts are presented, something along those lines, which told me, okay, cool, Melvin's playing. We'll finally get to see, again, we'll touch wood, a Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay backfield game, which is something we only have seen one half of this season.
Yeah, and maybe the Broncos do what some colleges do and suspend Melvin for the first half of this game against the Patriots. I don't think that'll happen. I don't even think the punishment, what I think it'll be, is Philip Lindsay being the starter, and just Philip Lindsay being the starter. I think you'll see Melvin Gordon worked in. Maybe he sits a series in this game, but I fully expect him to be back. And yeah, we finally get to see what two Pro Bowl running backs looks like together, maybe for a full game. Maybe we have to wait against the Chiefs to see it for a full game.
Do you think, though, on some level, it's kind of lame just saying, okay, the league's going to take care of it? Because Vic Fangio's quote on Melvin Gordon yesterday was, it's going to be punished pretty strongly from the league standpoint. We're working through from our standpoint. If we're going to do much more than what the league will do, what the league will do will be pretty substantial, because that's something that is negotiated in the CBA. I feel like they're just passing the buck here. They're saying, okay, the league's going to do it. We don't have to do anything. Well, no, you can. You can do more. And the 1/2 suspension, I agree. I don't think we'll see that, because if you're going to set a guy for a half, you might as well just deactivate him for the game, have an extra running back up to make sure you're covered with 3 guys, rather than just sitting him for a half. And then say you have a couple running backs get injured. Oh, we can't. We got to rescind the suspension. We got to bring him back. So, I mean, I don't know. The whole thing just feels kind of mealy-mouthed to me on the Broncos' part. I
think they'll suspend him for half a series. They'll let Phil go out there for the first 3 plays, and then they'll start rotating Melvin in. Mason, I look at it like this. Let's say you we'll just use a similar substance here. Let's say you showed up drunk to school when you were in high school, and you got caught.
Not advisable.
Yeah, don't do that.
Wait, did you say that from experience, Zach?
No. That would be way too early.
Anyways, you show up drunk to school in high school and you get caught. And they call your parents, right? And you're in all sorts of trouble. You're going to get suspended by the school. Do you think your parents would just say, like, well, getting suspended from school is enough punishment for me? We're going to leave it to the school. They already have a process in place for this.
No, they would drop the hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They would drop the hammer. And that is what the Broncos aren't doing here, which honestly, I don't know. I've seen this so many times that it doesn't surprise me. I can't even say I'm disappointed or anything like that. I expected this from the start. When Vic Fangio made it seem like that wasn't going to be the case, that was the surprise to me. But if the Broncos were told, hey, if you suspend him for 1, we'll only suspend him for 2, then I think there might have been something here. But they don't want to suspend him for 1 and then have the league suspend him for 3, and now they've lost him for a quarter of the season.
Yeah, and What it boils down to is the Broncos need a win. They desperately need a win. So that's how they're viewing it. They're viewing it as, okay, well, if we can have Melvin back and that's our choice, well, we're going to keep him here. And I think the Broncos realize that these past couple of days. So I would be shocked if he doesn't play this week.
Yeah, and I'll be shocked if he doesn't play. And ultimately, based on how things are in the CBA, this current CBA, he is looking at a 3-game suspension. And you wonder if they're going to try to kind of cross their fingers and hope it's a 3-game stretch that is relatively benign rather than this current 3-game stretch. Because if he was suspended right now, it would be Patriots, Chiefs, Chargers. Maybe they're hoping that the 3-game stretch is something that sounds a little like Panthers, Bills, Chargers, something like that.
Or Mace, what they're thinking is, we're kind of still in this now. There's some hope for our season now. Why don't we just wait till it's a Kareem Jackson situation and where we lose him when we're totally out of the playoffs and it doesn't matter anymore?
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it all comes down to winning. And it's why when you're in high school, the starting quarterback gets different treatment than you did. And it's why the guy on the Seahawks, who no one can even remember his name, but who tried to sneak the girl into the hotel, well, he got cut. But if it was Russell Wilson who did it, no one would have. We probably wouldn't even have found out about it, and it would have been swept directly under the rug where no one would ever see it again. So, if the Broncos think Melvin Gordon can help them win this week, he's going to play because they have an option, and they're always going to lean towards the option that helps them win the game.
Yep, without a doubt. And that's why 25 will be out there right alongside 30.
So we already talked about this game plan once before, but now things have changed drastically. The Broncos have their quarterback. They have both of their running backs. They might have their tight end back. It's a completely different squad, in my opinion, that's going to be out there than when we were talking about this game last Friday. So, Mace, I'll start with you. When you're putting together the game plan for this game for the Broncos, what type of pieces are you including in there?
Well, you're going to have Melvin Gordon, as we talked about, and you'll have Philip Lindsay back. I'm starting there. I'm starting with trying to control the game, not simply on the ground, but just control the game with Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay. I'm using them out of the backfield as short to intermediate area targets. I'm sticking with the run as long as you can. I mean, one thing, like for that Bucks game, for example, the Broncos wanted to come out and run. The game got out of hand. So it's also incumbent upon the defense to keep Cam Newton in front, of them. Maybe accept that there are going to be some dynamic runs that catch him off guard between the 20s. But at the same time, if everyone's making their tackles on the back end, you're able to limit the damage a little bit and hold the Patriots to field goals. So if you can have a balanced offense that can sustain some drives, if you can have a game that's pretty competitive, pretty close, and you don't have to deviate from your game plan, I think you buy time to kind of jab at the Patriots at defense, and then as time goes on, then hit them over the top with Jerry Jeudy, then try to get Noah Fant going down the seam if he plays, then try to kind of take advantage of the fact that you've been able to kind of gently jab and tenderize them a little bit with Gordon and Lindsay getting heavy doses, then beat them over the top. You're going to have to play the long game a little bit in this contest.
Yeah, I think what having Drew Lock does and changes the game plan from everything we talked about this week is it stretches the field, and you've got to do that. If you want to incorporate the run game, that's going to be the best complement to the run game, is stretching the field, throwing the ball deep with Drew. Because with Brett, if I was the Patriots, there's really no reason to have anyone be further than 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I would have stacked the box, gone one-on-one with my wide receivers, and hey, you know what? If Brett Rippon beats us deep, then good for him. And I know he was good statistically against the Jets when he went deep, Brett Rippon was. But come on, I mean, that Jerry Jeudy catch was a fantastic catch. That wasn't necessarily a great throw by any means. I don't think the Patriots would have been scared by that, the deep threat from Brett Rippon at all. So the threat of Drew going deep is good going into the game, but then you actually have to make it a threat. You can't baby Drew Lock. Let him go out there, sling it, go deep, and then that'll open up those holes for Phillip and Melvin. And then that's where your great 1-2 punch could come.
So Andre has coined this phrase when talking about Ryan Tannehill, and I just absolutely love it. He's talking about how Ryan Tannehill is making threes and dunks. And basically what he's saying is when it's wide open because they ran a great play-action play, he's making a great throw every time. But then he's also hitting some threes. He's going over the top. He's throwing those 9 routes. He's making big plays down the field. And it's a game changer when you can make some dunks and then open them up with some threes. And and to continue with the basketball analogy, when you're making those threes, they don't know they don't know if you're going to drive and try to dunk it or if you're going to shoot the three. So that to me is massive. That's the type of game plan that they should be using with Drew Lock.
Yeah, but without a doubt, and now it's going to come down to turnovers. Can the Broncos limit their turnovers to maybe just 1? And if they're able to do that, then that'll not good.
Oh, one of you didn't touch wood.
Yeah, that wasn't me. I thought I saw Zach touching wood too. So
yeah, I've got it right here.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe,
quick,
this whole desk is wood, by the way. So maybe there are limits to the power of touching wood in the face of a global pandemic. Maybe that's the limit. For
those listening on the podcast format, news just came down from Ryan Spagnoli. Now, I'm not sure how reliable he is, but he said, don't shoot the messenger, but hearing more positive COVID-19 cases coming from the Patriots. If that is the case, covering for SB Nation.
Pat's Pulpit, yep.
If that is the case, the game will most certainly be first moved to Monday, and then it may be moved to Tuesday, and then, you know how this goes.
Well,
and then we may be talking about Week 18.
I think
the Broncos can't be moved.
I think that's more the case here. If you're talking about they have more cases, and if they are among the players, then is this thing really going to be back together to play on Monday or Tuesday?
Well, no, but that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think realistically, if this report is true, I think it's more likely we're going to see this game played in January.
Oh, guys, this is brutal. This is brutal. I mean, take all the feel-good fun out of this podcast right now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they're wrong.
Now it's bum talk because I am officially bummed.
Yeah. Someone in the comments here suggesting potential forfeit for the Patriots. They haven't been proven to have any wrongdoing yet.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's on the table.
Yeah, that's my thing with the forfeits is if you can prove that someone did something wrong to break the protocols within a building and then that started an outbreak, then okay, I'm open to that. But this thing can spread so easily. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone did something wrong.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to know. I know they have all the contact tracing and they could probably do a better job than anyone of finding out what happened here. But man, if that is the case, then like I said, best case scenario is probably the game being played on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, and just more delays, more postponements. I'm sure that would make all of the Broncos absolutely thrilled. And the good news is the Colts had a scare this morning, and it looks like that scare was just that, a scare. It seemed like they had some positives come back this morning, did some more tests, and everything came back negative. So, you're hoping that Ryan Spagnoli is just wrong here. And you hope that if he is right, that there's some more tests that can come back to show that there was some false positives.
Yeah, that's what we'll hang on to. But I guess for now, until we have some more solid news, we'll continue talking about the game plan for the Broncos if they ever actually do play this football game. Like I said, threes and dunks. That's what I think Drew Lock needs to be doing when he comes in. And the way that you set up that three and dunk offense is by running the ball really well. So, Mace, I'm right there with you in the sense that these guys have to go out there and run the ball really effectively against the Patriots, and that'll make Drew Lock's job a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and that's look, let's go back to March. That's part of the reason why you brought Melvin Gordon in, right? Because you already had Philip Lindsay, but Melvin Gordon was here, to provide a little bit more punch in terms of pass catching out of the backfield, show Philip Lindsay the way a little bit after a tough season in that regard, largely because of his wrist. B, allow the Broncos to be more effective in the red zone. And C, it gives you a 1-2 punch where you can rely on that. One of the best friends for any young quarterback in the history of this game has been a ground attack that forced defenses to think of the run first and open things up for that young quarterback to take his shots downfield, like you guys said. So, I mean, I think you come out and you try to, like I said, kind of tenderize them a little bit and keep pounding. But a key to that is making sure that the Patriots that their offense doesn't allow the game to get away from you. Be patient with what you're doing. And if the defense does its job and limits the damage from Cam Newton and company, then you can play your game over the long haul. And then those little jabs will actually become haymakers by the second half. And not only will Drew Lock be able to hit over the top, oh, by the way, those 1 and 2 yard runs are going to start becoming 7 and 8 yard runs on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the defense. And on the defensive side of the ball, to me, it is all about taking away the run. If you can stop this team from running the ball effectively, which they have done in spades in their wins. Zach and I talked about it yesterday, I believe, or whenever we talked about that. Over 200 yards in their wins with Cam Newton on the field, right, Zach?
Yep, exactly. 217 and 250.
250, jeez. You're not going to lose many games where you run for that much. So the Broncos' job is to take that away. If you can make them one-dimensional, and currently, like I said, they're three-dimensional. They have running back runs, quarterback runs, and quarterback passes. If you can take away the running back runs and the quarterback runs and make life, really tough on them if they want to go between the tackles, then you have a chance to open these guys up. You have a real chance to force them to do things that they don't want to do. So they're going to try and pound and pound and pound. And if you take that away, they're going to have to change their game plan. So I think that has to be just absolutely the number one priority for the Broncos. And again, Vic Fangio should like this because it means that he gets to tell AJ Alexander, and Josie Jewell to pin their ears back and run downhill and plug those gaps in the middle.
Yeah, and if Cam Newton beats you over the top, well, and he consistently does that where they're putting up 30 points because of that, well, then shoot. I mean, tip your cap to him. But their formula and what they want to do is run the ball. So don't let them beat you with that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, again, Cam Newton's money zone is the 8 to 15 yard zone. And you have to stop them from being able to just attack you there because you're so focused on that run that's just gashing you over and over and over again. That the linebackers open up a big old window under the safeties and over the top of them. Yeah,
and guys, on the opposite side, we said that in their 2 wins, the Patriots have rushed for 200 yards, over 200 yards as a team. In their 2 wins, they've also forced 3 turnovers in both games. So that's going to be key for the Broncos is they can afford 1 mistake, but they cannot afford multiple mistakes. And they can't do what Brett Rippon did against the Jets, or they will get blown out by the Patriots. I don't even think they can afford 2 mistakes here. So it's going to be about controlling the ball, not just turning it over, but controlling it on the ground. And when you do take those shots, make sure that if you're going to miss the shots, that they're overthrows, that they're just an incompletion, not anything more.
Yeah, it's the best takeaway defense in the league, guys, going back to the start of the 2019 season. And, of course, they've carried it over this year, but 3 takeaways in each of their 2 wins, 1 takeaway in each of their 2 losses. So you've got to make sure that the offense isn't sloppy. And then on the other side, even before the week 4 game in Kansas City when they play without Cam Newton, the Patriots, they were averaging a giveaway a game. Now, obviously 4 giveaways against the Chiefs with Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer kind of spikes that a little bit, but you are going to have opportunities to take away the football. And the Broncos, with only 2 takeaways from their defense this year, one of the league's worst at that. So not only do you have to protect the ball, you've got to you've got to strip it from them when you have the opportunity. You've got to be able to make a play in that regard, because what you pulled off against the Jets, when you have 3 giveaways and no takeaways and you still win, that's the type of win that you get once every 5 years or so, literally.
Right.
So don't expect that equation to work against a much better team like the Patriots. Find ways to take away the football. Get in there. You want guys trying to strip it at every opportunity, because the thing that this defense has been missing, that has been part and parcel of Vic Fangio's better defenses over the years, has been takeaways, and the Broncos still haven't found that touch yet in the Fangio era.
No, and unfortunately, regardless of who you're playing, the Broncos have the 3rd worst turnover margin. That's going to be tough to even be 500 when you're that. They're 30th in the league in their turnover margin.
Zach and I talked about this yesterday, but I'll ask you, what's a successful game for Drew Lock?
Are we talking about numbers or something kind of hazier than that?
Tell me just what came to your mind when I asked that question.
I'm thinking that Drew completes 65% of his passes, at least 1 touchdown, no interceptions, no fumbles lost, and that when he gets hit, he bounces right back up, feels no discomfort, goes right on to the next play.
Anything in the results category?
If he does that, if he has that sort of outcome, I think the Broncos have about a 50%. They have a 50-50 chance of winning the game. Because let's say 20 of 30 for 225 yards, a touchdown, no turnovers in any way. I think the Broncos have a decent shot to win with that.
I like it. Well, last week we did our predictions, and we had to do a different prediction for every possible quarterback matchup, which came out to be 5?
Yeah, I think there was 4 of them.
So this week, should we make a different prediction based on when the game is played?
No, boy. Yikes.
All right, so we'll go down for our predictions, regardless of when this game is played, unless, of course, it's in January, in which case we reserve the right to change our picks. Zach, I'll start with you. How do you see this one going?
So the Patriots are a 9.5-point favorite here, and I like the Broncos to cover. I like this being a 7-point game. I'm going Pats 27, Broncos 20. I wasn't sure if I was going to go 24, but I think the Patriots do get this win. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for really any team to go into New England this year when Cam is playing and Stephon Gilmore is playing and beat the Patriots. Bill Belichick is so good going up against young guys, and Drew Lock has missed a month, so I think he's going to struggle at times. But in the end, the Broncos cover the spread. It's not a blowout loss. And when you really take a step back, you're saying, okay, the Broncos went in there and fought a good team.
Kind of see it the same way as you, Zach. I think the Broncos managed to cover. Having Drew Lock out there makes the difference. I'm going to go a little bit of a lower score, 23-17, and that's the Patriots getting 5 scores. The Broncos limiting the damage in the red zone, forcing the Patriots to settle for some field goals that allows the Broncos to stay in it. But I think Cam makes 1 or 2 big plays that are gonna be the difference in this game, and if this happens, it'll feel lousy for the Broncos. It'll feel like a really frustrating loss, and it's gonna feel like one that they should have had.
Guys, got a little feeling about this one. I think that the Broncos are a pissed off team. I think that they're tired of looking at these silver helmets on film. I think that they are a team that prepared for Cam Newton for the entirety of this time and haven't lost any practice time during all of this, except for the couple days they took off. And I think the Patriots have just been a mess for the last couple weeks. On the field, off the field, got the quarterback, without the quarterback, preparing for Brett Rippon, preparing for Drew Lock. And in the end, I think that it really affects them. I think they come out and play a really sloppy game while the Broncos play a much cleaner one behind Drew Lock. And I think the Broncos find a way to claw this one out, get back to 2-3, and really see their season come alive again. So I'm going Broncos 24, Patriots 21.
Well, I hope you're right because, I mean, it's transformative because you are staring down the barrel of the Chiefs the following week. But if you beat the Patriots, you're no worse than 2-4 coming out of the Chiefs game. And then while the Chargers are very feisty with Justin Herbert and the Raiders are playing well with Derek Carr, you do come into a stretch of games where you feel like you've got a decent shot in all of them on the backside of this. So if you get one win the next 2 weeks here, you've still got everything in front of you, despite what you've been through.
Yeah, you do. And you have to get one of the next two to have this season be alive. And it's crazy how we've talked about just in 9 days, the Broncos could easily, and Vegas would tell you that the Broncos will be 1-5. And, that's easy to see. There's also a chance the Broncos could be 3-3. Now, I know that is crazy to say, and I certainly wouldn't put my money on it at all. But what if they are 3-3 in 9 games from now? They wouldn't just be 500. They'd be on a 3-game win streak, and they would have just beaten maybe two of the toughest games on their schedule, 2 of the toughest games that anyone in the NFL has back to back, with their quarterback back, getting back to full strength. AJ Boye, if he's not back for that Chiefs game, he'll be back soon. KJ Hamler would probably be back soon. It's crazy that the Broncos have that opportunity there. Now, don't put your money on it. I wouldn't recommend putting your money on it, but it's crazy that opportunity's there.
Hey, stuff happens. I mean, if Bryce Wilson, he of the career 5.91 ERA and 1.805 WHIP, can outduel Clayton Kershaw in a high leverage postseason baseball game, who's to say the Broncos can't shock the hell out of people in the next couple of weeks? Anything's possible, Zach. I'm feeling in an optimistic mood this morning.
Maybe I should actually predict the Broncos to win 2-0 because for some reason the NFL decides that the Patriots have to forfeit. Did you know that if a team does forfeit, it goes down as a 2-0 win for the other team?
I did, and I hate that rule. I mean, at least in baseball, if you forfeit, it's 9-0. You get a blowout. I would say
really going to hurt the Broncos' points per game average.
Yeah. The forfeit result should be, I mean, the biggest blowout in NFL history, I believe, is 73-0 in the 1940 NFL championship game, Chicago over Washington. So I would say match that. A forfeit result should be 73-0.
I like how they decide. I like to think that the thought process here was like, what should we make the score? And they were like, I don't know, 1-0. And they're like, well, that's the one score that isn't actually possible to achieve in a game. So we're going to have to do a real score. Well, let's go 2-0.
Yeah, or they called Vic Fangio and said, what's your ideal score in a football game if you're going to win? And he said 2-0. And they said, all right, let's make it 2-0.
He really would love that. He would never let the offense hear the end of it.
No, he would love it.
Last thing I want to talk about here, guys, before we switch over to the podcast format. So I had a rapid COVID test done at some point during this, and the doctor told me that it had a 99.6% chance of being correct. The reason I bring that up is because the NFL somehow has false tests every week, and that does not scream that whatever test they're taking has a 99.6% chance of being correct. It sounds a lot more like an 80% chance of being correct. What is going on here? Why are there so many false positive tests in the NFL?
Yeah, I don't know. And that's crazy. I didn't know that there could be tests that were 99% accurate, but the NFL, if that's out there, should absolutely be doing those, because you're right. It seems like false positives are coming left and right, and we just had them this morning.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at kind of the big numbers, first of all, when we had the false positives, we've had these clusters of false positives. So it's kind of one lab having a screw up. The other thing, I was thinking about this. There was one stretch back in late August, early September, where over the course of a week, you had 44,510 tests. Okay? So 44,510. What would 99.6% of that be? Well, it would be 44,331. That would mean, guys, that you would have or 332, pardon me. So that would mean that you would have 78 false tests.
There you go.
in a
That
week.
makes a lot of sense. See, that's why I need the math guys here.
Yeah.
We're here for you, RK, as always.
The question is, if you're having all these false positives, are there false negatives?
That's
Probably.
and that's part of the the needle that could puncture the bubble here.
Yeah.
Is the false negative, and somebody going and false negative. Okay, everything's fine. Guy goes out there, practices, but maybe that there's not proper contact tracing. Maybe there's a not proper distancing elsewhere in the facility, and all of a sudden you have a spread. I mean, the thing is, there's only so much you can do if you're trying to pull off this season. I mean, if you want a total non-spread, the only way you do it is by not playing. So
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. It's kind of tough timing here for the podcast because we're just left in limbo, waiting for something to come from Adam Schefter or someone else who will have I won't say guaranteed success rate on their reporting, but at least 99.6% accurate, I would say, for those guys. So we will shift over to the podcast side of things. But thank you to everyone who tuned into this live, brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery. And for those staying on the podcast, we'll talk to you in just a second.